As I'm driving down the dirt road, there are drones flying through the air and tractors driving through the field. A drone shoots down to the ground, and before I know it, I have a text on my phone saying that a crop has a disease on it. I'm able to get out of my truck and walk over to the exact location of the plant and get rid of the plant before the disease can start to spread. As I look over across the field, there are 5 tractors ripping up the dirt, but not a single one of them has a driver in it. Before we know it, this is what farming could look like. I will be informing you on what the future of farming could look like within the next 20 years. Even though most people do not farm, everyone eats. So it's important to know how farming is changing because it can affect the amount of food the population eats. If farmers can't grow enough crops, you might not be able to eat some of your favorite foods. I have done a lot of research to see what technology is currently being used and what technology is currently being built and tested. I have also grown up on a farm and have got the opportunity to see how technology has advanced and what technology is starting to be introduced. New technology is being introduced into farming to help improve the way crops are grown and the outcome that crops will have. I'll be explaining what technology is currently being used, what new technology is being built and tested, and how the technology will affect the way crops are grown and the outcome the technology will have on the crops. There's technology being used in many areas of farming. One of those is being able to manage a pivot from your phone. In an interview with Dean Gibson, the owner of Demeter Farms, he said, having the ability to run a pivot from your phone is extremely helpful. I can run it from my office, I can run it from my couch at home, or I can run it from the beaches in Hawaii. I can turn a pivot on or off, I can manage an end gun and tell it when to turn on and off. I am able to tell how much water is being put down, how fast it is going, and what direction it is moving. Whenever the pivot shuts off for any reason, it will send me a text saying that it's off. So when something breaks down, I can send my guys a text, or call my guys and tell them that they need to get on it. I don't have to worry about the pivot being broke down and sitting there for a couple of hours. There's also GPS technology being used for tractors to help out the operators. With an interview with Gibson, he says, GPS units allow the equipment to run to its maximum potential. If a header is 30 feet wide, a GPS can consistently harvest 29 feet and 11 inches of grain. Compared to us driving the combine by hand, the operator is harvesting sometimes at 29 feet and sometimes at 27 feet. Having the consistency of the GPS helps the machines maximize their efficiency and take some of the pressure off the operator. Now that you have a basis of what technology is already currently being used, I can let you know what technology is being built. There's new technology that is being built that will help farmers get the most out of their crops. One of those technologies is to help detect fungus and disease. Red Whitaker, a robotics engineer at Carnegie Mellon, had an interview with Anthony King. In that interview, Whitaker said, "We project drones mounted with RGB or multispectral cameras will take off every morning before the farmers get up and identify where within the field there is a pest or problem. As well as invisible light, there are cameras who would be able to collect data from the invisible parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. That could allow farmers to pinpoint a fungal disease before it even starts to become established. Soil technology is being built to get the best types of soil for their crops. According to Anthony King, soil mapping opens the door to sowing different variety of crops in one field to better matching shifting soil properties such as water availability. It is possible to change the genes in a crop. However, this is only being tested in labs. According to Eric Betts, CRISPR's precision lets science select specific genes from plants relative, wild or domestic, and insert only the desired traits. Scientists can simply knock out a gene that leaves a plant susceptible to disease. Now you know what technology is being built and tested, it is time to know how the technology will affect the growth and outcome of crops. The new technology will help the crops grow a better yield and will result in less disease. With drone technology, they'll be able to detect fungus and disease, which will result in less crops being thrown out. With the drones being able to detect a fungus or disease before it starts growing in early stages, this will help reduce the number of crops that are lost. If disease is found in early stages, it may have lost one plant, but it stops the potential from the disease growing to the rest of the field. Soil mapping will help crops grow better in certain fields. Different crops grow better in different types of soils. Soil mapping can make it so that certain fields are only planted in a specific crop. By doing this, they can plant a crop that will help get the best yield and produce the most money for the farmer. Being able to change the genes that make up a crop will help the farmers grow a better crop and limit the amount of disease. When growing a crop, there are sometimes just one thing that is missing for making it a perfect crop. By being able to insert that certain gene that helps the farmer be able to produce the best crop possible. Having the ability to stop a disease from growing by inserting a gene not only takes a lot of stress off the farmer, but helps it maximize the crop's potential. In conclusion, the new technology that is being introduced in farming will help farmers maximize the most out of their crops, which will lead to more food for the world to eat. First, I discussed what technology is already being used. Second, I discussed the new technology that is being built and tested. And finally, I discussed how the technology will affect the way the crops are grown and the outcome it will have on them. As people who eat fresh and processed food, it is important to know a little about farming technology, because if farmers can't grow enough crops, you may not be able to eat some of your favorite foods. I'd like to finish off my speech by giving you a quote by John Salazar. He said, "I've always said there's only one thing that can bring our nation down: our dependence on foreign countries for food and energy. Agriculture is the backbone of our economy."